in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know, investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die, yo?" Reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Show yourself. Oh, please show yourself. You come to me in the night. You take me for the starry ride. You study me, you dissect me. You never show me the truth to me. Are you little men from the stars? Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Visit me, then corner me, and you'll touch me, and then you cage me. You leave me with these metal scars, you little men from the stars. Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Show yourself. Oh, please show yourself. Is my life my whole life, or is it you an experiment made for your amusement? Oh, tell me, are my thoughts my own, or a sea placed by you? Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Why won't you show
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone, to UFO Undercover. Hope everyone's having a great evening, great morning, great afternoon, wherever you are on our big, beautiful blue planet. I say this every week. There's nowhere else I want to be but here on the weekdays. Wednesday is my favorite day to be with y'all. So it's been Wednesday for us for 24 years? No, 22 years. UFO Undercover has been around for 22 years because we used to do Wake Up USA UFO study for a couple of years before it. So anyway, welcome everyone to UFO Undercover. We're going to be crossing a lot of topics tonight, so it'll be kind of fast and furious kind of thing as we're going through the night. Okay, before we even get started, I got my messenger open on my Joe Montaldo page. Yeah. No, Jesse, you're on it, so you know which one it is. Yes. Yes, it's that page. Not the one with the long hair. No, that's not the one. Not with the one with the Ancient Aliens logo. Just the one with my pretty bald head face up there. Yeah, that's the one. Message me through that. Actually, I don't think it matters. If I remember right, my three personal pages and my two Instagram pages all go to the same message. It also goes to my cell phone because I got a Facebook account open on my cell phone, so it goes there as well. So I don't think it really matters. But if you want to do it that way, you can. Also, you can go to, let's see, I have my Facebook page open, so you can go there. I've got my one with the long hair. You can go there. I've got the Facebook UFO Undercover, Facebook News on the Flip Side, Facebook UFO Paranormal Radio. So all of those, you can go watch my beautiful face there. You can also go to UFO Paranormal Radio YouTube and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrial YouTube, and you can go to Radio UFO on Twitter and watch us there. So if you want to watch us, if you want to see my beautiful face, there you go. I say us because Bob's back here pretending like he's asleep. So we don't want to offend him, by the way. He may wake up and cause problems. God, I love Folgers coffee. It's good stuff, man. And no, I don't give sponsorship. I'm sorry. Well, no, a couple of shows on the network. Actually, no. Just the girls have Folgers. The Outer Realm is the only one they currently sponsor on our network. So they should feel very special. Michelle and Amelia, they should feel very special. But a lot going on. There's a lot of weirdness been going on in the world, which is always nothing. I guess I should say it's nothing new. Always strange things going on. Things popping up here, things popping up there. But it always seems to be the same. And what I mean by that is, so before we get into why ET might be coming here visiting us or why they'd be interested, let's talk a little bit about Uncle Sam. So what does the government actually know? Sorry, guys. I just realized my phone was on when I seen it light up. What do you think? What do you think the government even knows about any of this? Does the government know anything? Or are they looking at us going, hey, we know everything. We don't need the MILAB. Okay, well, we know that's not true because they do MILAB. If they didn't MILAB, then we could say, okay, maybe the government knows more than we think. But the fact that they take contactees and put them through the rigors to try to find out information about how craft work, interiors of craft, atmosphere in crafts, types of aliens aboard craft, all kind of questions they ask when, or have you been brought off world? Have you ever done this, that, or the other thing? They wouldn't need to do any of that if they knew, right? Stuff that ICAR's learned over the years, we just put in a database, and unless something gives us a reason to change it, it becomes part of our database. And if it's contactee criteria, it becomes part of the criteria. Well, and criteria is basically anything that we find common in abductions. So this all started because way back before time was created, when I was with MUFON, they had no way of tracking any type of contactees or finding contactees or even understanding what contactees may or may have not been. But worse than that is they just took anyone's word as gospel. So what happened is you'd get these people that come in that would talk about one particular type of alien that no one ever seen before or since, or these weird deranged messages that only that individual could deliver. So let's clarify that right now. ET is not going to give just one person a message. Okay. If they're going to give a message to the world, then most of the contactees will get it and they'll go out and preach the message. If one person's saying it, then it's more about ego than it is about alien. Just being honest about it. Humans have a bad tendency to make everything about us. So, sometimes contact takes over a person's life and they want to make it about them. They have to figure out, why are these aliens taking me? Why are they doing these things to me? What is it? So you would rather think you were special than a piece of meat, right? Isn't that true? Isn't that a true statement? Wouldn't you rather think you were special than just a piece of meat on a slab? So you want to make it about you, but it's not really about you. It's about what the extraterrestrials are doing here, why they're here, what they expect from us, what they want us for, what we're useful for, and what the future is going to be along with them and us. That's really what it's about. It's not about changing humanity in the way we think it is. Humanity's, from the original interbreed, which was God knows how many thousands or millions of years ago, ever since then, we have been on a separate evolution from the rest of everybody in our country, or in our planet for that matter. So what's been going on is you've been seeing a distinctive group coming outside of the normal population, about 15%, matter of fact. These people seem to be faster, brighter, more intelligent, more in tune with the environment around them, more in tune with where we should be going in the future. Just in generally, and they tend to have knowledge above their education levels. So let's say that somebody went and got a bachelor's. Well, he probably knows anything a PhD knows or more. These people, say you dropped out at 6th grade. Well, you may have the knowledge of a bachelor's. It's a weird thing, but contactees tend to possess quite a bit more knowledge than what they were taught or learned through life. It's like somewhere else they've been able to access more information, and they understand more. And it's weird because for contactees, it's different because when they're on board the big ships, they have access to past records, meaning that they could look at stuff that may have went on during the roaming, or look at stuff that would remember. The aliens were here abducting people when Christ became Christ. While he was becoming Christ, they were here abducting people. So they have knowledge of that as well. They have knowledge of a lot of things that simply the rest of us have not been able to see. So knowing that, when you're on board a ship, you're tempted to look back in the past, look back at your own family in the past, but just to look back and see how wrong is our history. And when you talk to a lot of contactees, it seems to be not so accurate. The spoils always goes to the victors, and the victors always write the history. So knowing that, knows that our history is, well, we'll just say vulnerable and leave it at that. How much is correct, how much is not correct, how much information was lost, like at the burning of the Library of Alexandria, other libraries, great libraries that were lost 2,000, 3,000 years ago. It's information that can't be replaced because we simply don't even know what was in there. There are one or two pieces laying around that were like manifest things that showed what was in the Library of Alexandria, stuff that when you hear the name of it or description of it, you're fascinated. But it doesn't exist anymore. The invention itself is gone. Whatever the idea is gone. And the actual writing of the idea is gone as well. You get just a description of something that you're just, what? Certain things that were developed early on, like the, well, here's a useful one, concrete. Here we are, 2,500 years later, or 2,000 years later than the Roman Empire. And, we still can't reproduce the concrete they made to build the aqueducts with. And it's far better than anything we use today. Yeah, I mean, figure that out. So this is someone who, when did their empire start? 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, whenever it was. Developed a concrete that hardened underwater, by the way, and is far superior to any concrete on the planet today. Far superior. It's still there. 2,000. And remember, they have earthquakes in Italy. So, and volcanoes. It's still there, people. It still could be used. Actually, a lot of it could be cleaned up and used. So it's funny that we can't reproduce this 2,000 years later. Why can't we reproduce this? Why can't we reproduce something that was invented 3,000 years ago? I mean, come on. Was our ancestors that much smarter than us? I have a hard time believing that. But then there are things that, like, here's another one for you. So how did the Egyptians build their tunnels and build their pyramids? Anybody know? And what I mean by that is, how do they breathe? So there's no air vents in these tunnels. There's nowhere to suck in air. So, and it's not that important when it's just a small space and the door open and closes. That'll bring air in and out. It's enough for a couple people to walk around. But when you have flames burning, because you have to have fire to see, you got to have light in these dark areas. Well, fire does what? It sucks up the oxygen. Well, if there's no way to bring in oxygen or to bring in light that doesn't need oxygen, then you're not getting any pyramids built. So one or two things was going on. Either someone figured out a way to get oxygen in there, but since we know there's no scorch marks in any of the rock anywhere, that means they didn't use fire. Ooh, so how'd they light it if they didn't use fire? Some people said they used mirrors. Well, mirrors would work to an extent, but they worked at night as well. And they, in their cloudy days, they worked, and that's what I'm saying. So somehow this, so on when you look at hieroglyphs from the time, they have these tube-looking things. They look about, if you can get it in the camera, probably I don't know. Let's turn like this, about this long, and about yay big around. And they have a cord hooked to the back of them. Well, inside of them, the picture is an image of an electric eel lighting up, shooting a charge inside what appears to be a glass tube, like an electrical filament that was making light. Well, was it a real eel inside someone? You just shook him up, made him angry, and he made light? I don't think so. It was some type of lighting. Somebody invented some type of lighting, which of course that's all gone because it was 3,000 years ago, and nobody knows, or 4,000 years ago, nobody knows what the hell it was. There's no writings left of it anywhere. How did they create this? How did they create the 0.44 milliliter just gaps between rocks? The only thing I know that can do that besides a laser is water. A water jet can do that. As far as cutting it by hand, no freaking way. I don't care what anybody says. You ain't cutting nothing that fine by hand. It's just a goof unless you sat there. Well, okay, let me correct myself. You could cut it by hand if you sat there and sanded the area for like a year to make it smooth enough that when it touched, there would just be that little gap. Otherwise than that, the gap would be bigger by hand cut tools. So, it's probably some type of water jet. Somebody probably figured out how to do it, seen water cut through mud or something one time and figured, hey, maybe we get enough pressure, we can do it. But that's all stuff, inventions that they probably used that are gone now. Adios amigos, nobody knows. All because somebody threw a torch into the library. I mean, it's just, that kind of stuff is ignorant. What bothers me even more is as we become a technological society, electronic society, we need to have certain libraries kept, because if there's ever a war and EMP wipes out everything and there's no electronics, then everything on a computer is useless. Anything on microfilm, anything, it's useless. The only thing that will be good is a book, a physical book that you can read, or a diagram or a manuscript, something like that. That's the only way we'll survive. Or else we'll just go back to being cavemen. So we'll revert for about 1,000 years, maybe 2,000 years, and then we'll start coming forward again, have to reinvent everything. That's a sad way to start life all over again. And it could even take longer than that, because you don't know how long the reversion process is going to take before we start to come back and start to invent things productively again. I mean, things like the gas engine or even the electric engine. That's all electronics. If there's no books to tell you how to build it, it's useless. Or how to refine gasoline or crude oil or any of that. How to make electricity. There ain't all that many people that know it. It's like your computer. 90% of the people listening to me tonight do not know how a computer works or how to build their own computer. And I'm not talking about just throwing some parts together. I'm talking about software, the way your processes work, how to connect everything. That's a handful of people listening. You got to be kind of geekified to even want to do it to start off with. So what you're going to do when the end time comes, or when there's no electronics, or you can't build your own computers or put your own software together. So what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to go all the way back down to being caveman or lighting fire with a stick, and before you figure out there's other ways to do it. You say it, and it's probably happened before. That's the bad part. It's probably happened. You mean on our planet? No, I don't. Well, it might have happened on our planet. I don't want to rule that out. There's things that suggest that there may have been life here previous to us, intelligent life. I mean, look. Now let's look at it from a different point of view. 5 mass extinctions. 5 mass extinctions. Very little evidence for the last 4. Okay. There is some evidence, but it's very little evidence. Most of it's been crushed, turned to dust, or turned into oil or something else. Even for the dinosaurs, there's very little evidence. I mean, there's lots. Yeah, not for the hundreds of millions of dinosaurs that lived on the planet. No, there's not. There's maybe what 5,000 skeletons around the world, if that many. Mm. I'm just talking about of large ones. It's if you start talking about little ones, there's probably a couple of 100,000 of those. But the problem is here, the further you go back, the less evidence there is. So you don't know if man lived before I shouldn't even say man. You don't know if something intelligent lived prior to the last extinction. Every evolution on this planet, intelligent life could have evolved and then been wiped out by whatever kicks off these last great extinctions. And extinctions seem to be weird because they're running 200 million years apart or so. So not even that, about 100 million years apart. What's causing them? Well, they said the last one was caused by a meteor. Maybe. They can't prove it, though. It's sheer speculation. Oh, no, it's sheer speculation. It's just a theory. It's not a fact yet. They know there was a big strike at the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see that from orbit, or you can see that if you just go down there. But they don't know for sure. And it doesn't explain everything in the ocean. It doesn't explain a lot of stuff that died on our planet. It's just not a big enough extinction event. It's not a 2%er like what went on. And then you've got the carrion eating animals that wouldn't have died anyway from all the carrion that was left around for the next year and a half. And well, it's a long-term event to start off with. So that's part of the reason why, and particularly with this strike, it killed a bunch the first year. And then after that, it lasted for however long it lasted. And then as it faded off, life came back out. But see, that's the tricky thing. So it wiped out everything. Okay. 98%, remember, 98%. But look at the diversity on our planet today. That came from 2% of what was left. Think about what they're saying to you now. All the diversity on this planet, everything you see, all 100 billion species that live here, came from 2% of the last extinction of the dinosaurs. And from that, all of this came to be. I don't know, guys. Sounds a little iffy-skiffy if you ask me. Maybe we had some help with that. Maybe the planet was terraformed. I mean, prior to the last 10,000 years, Earth wasn't conducive for life for humans. At least not the way humans are today. It's the last 10,000 years has been the calmest place the planet's ever been in the history that we can find. It's been very relaxed. It's not been massive. No calderas blowing up. No asteroids hitting. No class 10 hurricanes. Nothing crazy. Just normal, everyday life. And I know somebody wrote to me, well, we're screwing it up with global warming. Well, maybe. Or maybe something else. I don't know. I hate blaming man completely because I know the planet was warming prior to man. And on a side note, which nobody likes to talk about, the outer planets have actually increased in temperature. So nothing that man's doing could cause the outer planets to raise in temperature. They said Jupiter went up about 0.01 degrees, and they expect some of the other ones. Even Pluto went up like 0.01 degrees. The only thing that can cause that is something nearby that's warming it. So there are a bunch of red dwarfs around us that were deposited by the Sagittarius Galaxy. They may be warming up the outer part of the planet, the galaxy, or the solar system. We are in a cluster of middle. I mean, this is what's so funny. So about 2 decades ago, a gentleman came out and said he thought that Earth and the Milky Way solar system was from the Sagittarius Galaxy, that our original home was the Sagittarius Galaxy, and of course the Milky Way wasn't. And a lot of scientists argue that's not true. We were from the Milky Way and blah, blah, blah. The only question I have to ask is then why are we surrounded by red dwarf stars from the other galaxy? And since if we were stationary, what I mean by that, we were a fixed thing moving around in our own orbit inside the Milky Way, then these things would be crossing our orbit, and they're not. We seem to be interacting with them in the way they orbit and the way they move, that our orbit's not interacting with us. And that would have took billions of years. So that would suggest that we were with the same galaxy that they were with. I'm not a physicist, and I'm not a... Well, thank you there. I appreciate that last comment. And no, I'm not an astronomer. I'm an amateur astronomer. I have a keen interest in it, and I really like it, but I'm not an astronomer. But still, it's just like the cluster galaxies. No one can explain those either. Remember, boom! boom, big bang, and everything's going whoosh. But then all of a sudden, this group stops and grabs a filament and just hangs there. A couple of thousand galaxies for some reason. Oh, here's another group. Here's another group. What the hell? And they're not moving away from the core, from the galactic core. So, wait a minute, that's a problem. Everything's supposed to be moving outward, and it's supposed to be even going faster now. So the whole universe doesn't go along with the Big Bang. Hey guys, don't hate on me. That's why it's called the theory, because you can't prove it. And then there's this thing about the universe is 14 billion years old, but it existed 40 billion years before it was what it is today. That just doesn't even make any sense. Somebody's going to have to explain that much better than that thing I heard the other night by this physicist. I'm like, dude, you're in crack. You're going to have to give me something more than that. So what was it? Just a ball of energy just sitting there? La, 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 40 billion years later. Oh, you know what? I didn't know I could explode. Boom. I'm just asking. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because we're way out. Okay. We're somewhere. First off, in our own solar system, we're way out on a spiral arm. We're not the farthest we thought we were, because recently they expanded our galaxy from 100,000 light years to 160,000 light years. So we're like on the third arm. We used to be on the outer arm, but now we're on the third arm. We're right smack in the middle. So we're way out from our sun, which means we should be an older solar system. But of course, we're not. We're a young one. At only 5 billion years, or not even that, at about 4 billion years, we're a fairly young solar system compared to other things in our galaxy that are 13, 14 billion years old. So, we're just not there. Our sun's about halfway through its life at around 5 billion years. It's still got about 5 billion years. About 3 billion years from now, it's going to turn into a red giant and engulf Earth. But you know what? Mars will still be there. And all the moons around Jupiter will become inhabitable. All the stuff around Pluto and all that will become inhabitable. Even stuff out in the Oort cloud will become more inhabitable because, now you'll have this big sun way out there heating all up the backside of the solar system now. So it's interesting. And that's why thinking about life going through the galaxy, there's going to be different phases, different steps, and different parts of the galaxy that was alive, dead, and then back alive again in a different form. I think you're going to see that a lot, just like you see it here on Earth. I think it's going to be a common thread. It's probably the way it helps the way evolution works. Take it down, put it back, take it down, put it back, take it down, put it back, each time improve. And eventually you get whatever you're looking for. In our case, our galaxy is an interesting place and our solar system is an interesting place. But interesting or not, the galaxy is a big place with a lot of planets and probably a lot of life forms. So why is it that at least 3 life forms have an interest in this planet? What is it? I mean, is it the humans? Is that what brought him here? Oh, look at these humans, man. They're cool. Let's go see them. Yeah, they're going to be the rulers of the universe one day. Yeah, let's go see them. Well, if you want to believe that, I'm all fine with that, Humans always want to be number one, so maybe so. Not feeling it that much, but maybe so. But why is it they want to come here? What is it that makes them want to come and hang out with us? Or did they have a hand in our creation? You see, there goes another little theory for you. So there's 3 basic ways man got to be here. And this is your own personal belief system, by the way. God created us. Okay, boom. He created Adam and Eve, and everything came from Adam and Eve. So God was cool. He said, all right, he, she, or it, whatever it may be. I don't know what pronoun it goes by, so I don't want to get offended nobody. So it created us, and here we are. Okay, that's cool. And then there's panspermia. And for the people who are not familiar with panspermia is simply just the building blocks of life, which we find all over the galaxy and all over the universe, was brought here in comets and dropped into primordial soup, and then life came from there. Good, solid, theory. I can't prove it yet, but really close and real good, solid theory. And then, of course, there's a last one. Extraterrestrials intervened or put us here or created us in some form or fashion. So any one of these theories is fine by however you want to believe. I mean, this comes down to sheer belief here because nobody can prove any of this yet. There are writings like with the Sumerians that suggest that an alien race did visit here. They lived in 2 great white dome cities. They created man, not the man that's here today, but a version of man. A version of man that could, by their description, that could, weed, cook, clothe, procreate, but never asked why it had to do anything. Plow the fields, sow the fields, the whole 9 yards, but never ask anything at all. Never even, even give a bad word to the people who ruled them. And that's what they said they were. But for some reason, nobody really knows why, they said the reptilians who were living with the Dogon at the time, decided, nobody knows why, to intervene. So they started coming and stealing the women from the Sumerians, bringing them home, raping them, getting them pregnant, and coming back and dropping them off. Sounds pretty horrific, and you're kind of like, what the hell? Why would they do that? And why would they come rape the women and drop them back off? And then these women started having children. I got to thinking, when I first heard this account, and this was 36 years ago, the first time I heard this, I read it in I was cruising around in there was a portal you could get in at the Cairo Museum. Now it's a much fancier thing now, but you had to have permission back then. But still, I had read this in one of the accounts on a couple of different things, and I was like, and I was just doing some research on the Sumerians in general. I was like, well, what the hell? I've never heard this story before. Because I've heard David Icke's version of Sumeria and the Greys and all the other reptilians and stuff like that. And and I like Icke, but I didn't exactly agree. It just didn't sound quite right. So the more I looked into it, the more I realized that the Sumerians were talking about a human type alien that looked a lot like us, but couldn't breathe. By their own words, they said they had to build these dome cities because the atmosphere was toxic to them. It's actually written in the story that way. And I was kind of like, well, wow, that's interesting. No, Clay, I don't know what word they used because it was translated into English. And I've only ever seen 2 translations of Sumerian text, by the way. And they can vary on stuff. So it's crucial which one you use. Well, like in Ike's case, the one that talks about Nibru, well, they weren't talking about a moon or anything like that. It sounds like they were talking about some kind of controlled orbit of something that came and visited every once in a while and just parked. It was big and bright, whatever it was. It would say it was like the size of the moon, but we know anything that would get into orbit the size of our moon would wreak havoc on our planet. I mean, it would wreak havoc. The tides would freak out, earthquakes, volcanoes, you name it, it would be a bad thing. So none of that's written in our past, so we know that didn't happen. So it had to be something that had some kind of, fielding or something that could cancel out its effects of being around our planet. It was probably in a stationary orbit anyway. It probably just stayed stationed over where it was parked and would just track like that. And it's one of the other reasons it wouldn't have affected anything. But it would have had to have been some type of craft, because any type of moon or meteor or anything like that would have just wreaked havoc. Because they always said it was Nibiru, which was a planet 5 times the size of Earth, and it would come cruising by between Jupiter and Mars, and they would hop off on their little spaceships and run over here for a little while and then run back and forth. And then as it got away, they'd get back on. It sounds like the movie 1999 or the TV series 1999, a cheesy ass series. And it would just take them back off. And then every 3,600 years, they would come back. Well, what happened to them? We've got 7,000 years of history now. They haven't been around in the last 7,000 years. Actually, well, no, because who said that? No, the Egyptians. And the Egyptians were great astronomers, damn right, and they weren't the only ones. That you had the people at Angkor Wat, they were also great astronomers. You had the Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas, also great astronomers, and none of them record any event like this anywhere in any time that they existed. Ooh, well, that's a problem, isn't it? If it comes by every 3,600 years, what the hell? Where's it been? Maybe it went off course. Maybe what they're talking about did exist at one time, way before man did. And maybe that's the thing between Mars and Jupiter. There's enough debris between Mars and Jupiter to create a planet about 5 times the size of Earth. Maybe that's what it was. Nothing interesting about that. The very first time I ever heard about that debris field, the asteroid field, I was told that it was a planet that didn't form. Okay, makes sense. Then I started learning about minerals in the field. Well, some of these minerals can only be made by serious compression, not by just being an asteroid floating around in space. They would have had to been part of a bigger body at one time, like a planet. And I'm not the only one. NASA's come out and said stuff about this, or the scientists have. There's just been a few asteroids they find in particular materials that are only made under high pressure, not the kind of little bit of pressure they're on by being in an asteroid. It would have had to have been under a large planet of some sort. So maybe it was a planet 5 times the size of Earth. As far as we know, look, Earth, Mars, and Venus all went foobar around the same time, 50, 60 million years ago. Shit happened. Somehow Mars ended up with 2 asteroids for moons, a big strike right in the middle of the planet. Huge, so big that it created Olympus Mons on the other side. Massive strike. More than likely, Venus also took a strike and put it into global warming. So Mars went into global cooling. Venus went into global warming. Earth just freaked out in general. Tidal waves, floods, disasters, fires, and then it all started to calm back down. But when Mars calmed back down, Mars was dead. Venus is still alive. And eventually, sometime in the future, Venus may actually cool enough to become a planet again. If there was, it's a shame if we were bright enough or had the technology, if we could siphon the greenhouse gas from Mars and send it to, from Venus and send it to Mars, we could super warm Mars and raise the temperature and raise the pressure so we didn't have to wear suits. We'd still have to wear breathing masks, but we wouldn't have to wear suits. But it would also cool Venus down enough that we might be able to start colonizing it. Remember, Venus is the same size as Earth, and its upper atmosphere is identical to ours, which suggests at one time it was a planet like this one. It doesn't have a moon, so I don't know how its tidal action would work, or if it would probably develop on a different lines, I would imagine. But still, it would be interesting to see how it worked. It's a planet. It's inside the inhabitable zone. It would be warmer than it would be here, but with a full atmosphere working correctly, the temperatures would be in the high 100, 110, 120. They wouldn't be in the 80s like they are here, but nothing that any race that evolved there wouldn't be able to handle. Or humans that lived there for any time, that could all be adjusted. So maybe all four of these planets were inhabited, and maybe shit hit the fan, and they all had to leave. And because all four planets went food bar, something blew up the fifth one, and it shot out chunks all over, blowing up on Earth, blowing up on Mars, blowing up on Venus, God knows where else in the solar system. And it took a while for it to all calm down. But we don't know because none of us were here, so we don't really know if that's what happened. Or maybe some celestial body passed through the asteroid field, sending asteroids shooting all over the place, because it does seem to be around sometime in the same time frames Earth, Mars, and Venus bit the big one. And to me, it's a curiosity, and I don't like coincidences. I've never been a big fan of coincidences. So I just wonder if that's what happened, or if any of these races are from it. Because the Greys, when they talk about the Greys, they sound like they could be from Mars. The way their bodies are disjointed, the way they don't have bones, the way they move, you can tell it looks like they used to being in a much lighter environment. But of course, Earth's gravity don't seem to screw with them. They still move around and do whatever they're doing. Yeah, I don't think it bothers them any. But let's go back a little ways. So to answer Michael's question, which is why would they come here? So could they have come here by accident? No. Could they have already been here? Might be a better question. So going back to what we were talking about with the Sumerians, so the planet got destroyed 50, 60 million years ago, 55 to 63 million years ago. We got whacked. So whatever was here, let's just say, we'll say it was the reptilians. They were living here because let's see, the planet was full of dinosaurs. Reptilians might have liked being here. Right kind of environment. They might have enjoyed it. It was a warmer, more oxygen-filled planet. Yeah, that's global warming, by the way, in case y'all didn't know that. So if you go back to the dinosaur areas, the carbon on our planet was much, much higher. There were no ice anywhere. All the ice on the planet was melted. The oxygen content was much richer because the vegetation, because it likes carbon so much, was much, much thicker. Yeah, see, carbon doesn't kill plants. It actually helps plants. So don't buy the bullshit. Yeah, it's food to them. So when you tell, it's going to kill all the plants. No, not really. Let's go examine the hottest points on our planet, which are much hotter than we are now. And, it's not a desert planet. Well, Mark, maybe because it's got 80% water. Maybe it makes it hard to be a desert planet because if it gets really hot, it just starts absorbing the air and starts creating rain. You know it as well as I do. If heat gets over oceans, what's the next thing that happens? Woo, convection. Clouds come up and it comes back down and it rains. Yeah, maybe that's why. What are you talking about? Saltwater most certainly does get in clouds. What are you on, crack? What are you? I'm just going to leave that alone. Have you never been out in the middle of the ocean and watched the clouds form? I'm just saying, man. I live on the Gulf Coast, so I'm just saying. Most of our rain comes from the Gulf of Mexico, my friend. I just want you to know that. I don't know who told you salt water can't make rain. I'm just leaving it alone. Well, no, the salt probably stays in the water. This is the water that evaporates. All right, I'm sorry, I'm just being mean, but I apologize. Getting back to the aliens. No, Lord have mercy, that was too much. So it looks like there were reptilians here, and then whatever happened. So either they went underground, which some people believe, or they left and went back to Draco or one of the other colonies, because nobody actually knows where their homeworld is. So, how many ever millions of years passed, human aliens are out flying in space, la, 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 la. Wow, hey, look, I remember this planet. I wonder if anybody lives here anymore. They fly over, they scan it. No humans, no intelligent life. Wow, and they're scanning all kind of resources and gold and anything they could use. So they said, well, you know what? We land on the planet. Oh, and they're coughing and choking. They can't breathe the atmosphere. So they decided at that point, they created a race of their own. They didn't originally create us. That's how the story goes. They created a race just like themselves that could breathe the atmosphere, to go out and take care of the planet and mine and colonize it. But being that they were omnipotent, like the original creators, the ones that couldn't breathe air, they decided that they were too good to be out there, digging in the dirt and doing this and doing that. So they created what the Sumerians called the seven creations of man, which the lookalike of this race was the last creation. They were supposed to be like a bird head, a dog head, all kind of other heads. They were trying to devise bodies like theirs, but minds that they could control. They didn't want to have another race that they had to control. So in the end, they settled for a race like us, but with a brain probably half the size of the one we have now, maybe a third the size, or maybe 2/3 the size of the one we have now. They really didn't understand things. They could catch on to things, but they didn't understand. They didn't know how to question anything. It wasn't in their genes to say no. They were born slaves. They were born and bred slaves. They didn't know anything else but that. And as far as they were concerned, that was their life. That's how it was supposed to be. And that's when the reptilians intervened. They said, "Screw this!" And the new kids who were born were rebellious. And when there was enough of them, they overthrew the government. They ran the human aliens off the planet and said no. There was probably millions of them by that time, and they said no. And that's the species that we're related to. That's the ones we come from. And you know how you know? Because if you have a reptilian section in your brain, you know. Oh, I knew this was going to happen. Okay, so let me smile at these two questions first and have a sip of coffee. Okay, Kablu. Am I saying it right? Carblu. Oh, well, I'm sorry. It's just weird looking name. No, I like strange names. I mean, I got an easy name, Joe. I mean, it's like, what's your name, Joe? Really? Joe? I didn't even know Joes exist anymore. Yes, just look at the idiot in the white. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't going. Stop. Slam on the brakes. I couldn't help myself. It was on me. Well, so the Sumerians, or I shouldn't say the Sumerians, the alien race that was here, I don't know why they didn't get into a fight with the reptilians. I'm really surprised they didn't. Or maybe that's why the Greys ended up coming to keep them from getting into a fight. But along the way, the more they bred, the more children they have. These children became self-aware. They wanted to know why they had to plow the field. Why didn't somebody else have to go plow the damn field? Why did they have to make the beer? Why did they have to have sex all the time? They didn't. They were just like, no. And when they got enough of them, they overthrew the Sumerians, which was probably, the alien race that was running it. So they just overthrew them, and they left. And then they came back later on, not much later on, but I mean, it didn't take them long. I don't know what they did cycle through, because there is a gap in people talking, or I should say races talking about them for about a couple of hundred years. The reptilians have been there the whole time. They were being talked about. And again, yes, Mark, I'm serious. You have a reptilian section in your brain. No, I'm not kidding you. Every human on the planet today has a reptilian section in their brain. It's what makes you what you are. It's a big chunk of your personality. It's what makes you say, no, don't touch me like that. That's the part that it is. It's not the violent part. In other words, it doesn't go out seeking violence. That's not what it gave us. They gave us the part to say no. That's really what it is. We became self-aware, and we realized that we could say no. Just like the saying, say no to drugs. Say no to Uncle Joe. I mean, things like that. So, yeah, I had to slip that in there, but but that's really what this was about. They gave us the ability to say no. And I think because the reptilians are the one that intervened on our behalf, I don't think the human aliens could wipe us out. I'm sure they wanted to, but I don't think they could, because the reptilians would have considered it, well, hey, I didn't see you in there with the reptilian brain. I don't think they could wipe us out without starting a war, or having to answer to the light beings or grays of the council. But anyway, you know what? And it might have just been that the human aliens ran to the council, and that's why they sent the light beings, because it sounded like the two were going to get in a fight. And of course, when the Greys got here, you'd already seen a big change across the planet. Reptilians were worshipped everywhere. The Mayans worshipped them, the Incans worshipped them, the Aztecs worshipped them, Native Americans worshipped them, Mesoamericans worshipped them, Africans worshipped them, Egyptians. I mean, all over the planet. Middle Easterners, and they were known as bringers of life, the bearers of good, and it was the aliens with the weird heads that were considered bad all throughout culture, not on both continents, or on two continents, I should say. The two major continents at the time that had people living on it. So the reptilians gave us the spark of just say no. Every mad driver, every mad mother should be out there thanking the reptilians that they gave them the ability to just say no. Because that's what that was about. It was about no longer being a slave race. And then here's the reptilians help us to get free. What's the first thing man does to turn around? The new freedom that man's got enslaves another race of man. I mean, come on. Well, you would think we would know better. You know, we came from a slave race. You'd think we wouldn't want to enslave our brothers, but how many times we've enslaved people on this planet? What's that? Oh, sorry, Donnie. I was looking at the wrong thing. What do you mean? Wait, what? All right, look, I don't want to get into that, but no, every race on this planet has been enslaved. Yes, doesn't matter who you are, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. Every race on this planet has served as slaves. Okay, what do you mean? Okay, I'm gonna be nice about this. The Greeks and the Romans enslaved mostly white people. Sorry. Yeah, they did. They did enslave some Africans and some Middle Easterners and a lot of Europeans, also some Asians. But so they had a big mix. I mean, the Romans. So in Rome, you were either a Roman or you were a slave. Is basically what it came down to. That's just how they were. The Greek were the same way. The Egyptians were the same way. Well. Pete, how you know Moses was a white man? Was you there? I'm just asking. Don't get mad at me. I wasn't there. Yeah, because that's what religious teaches us. But is it really? Is that really who he was? Well, he was a Jew, yeah. So, and look at the Jews. The whole Jew race was enslaved, and they're considered to be white people. That's what I'm saying. So when you hear people say, "Oh, no races have ever been enslaved," everybody's been enslaved one time or another. It's why when people get all upset about, it, I'm like, really? Look, come on, man. You act like you're the only race that's ever been enslaved. Bullshit. Everybody on this planet's been enslaved. Probably more than once at that. What do you mean the Romans went? Yeah, the Romans that were caught by the Mongols were sure to hell enslaved. Oh, and the Greeks that were caught by the Romans were also slaves or put into the sorry guys, we got a crazy dog going on. It's or put into the rings, one or the other, but you still have to be a slave to be in the ring anyway, so anyway, we're getting on the wrong track here now, people. So anyway, going back. So we all got this reptilian section in our brain that teaches us to say no or helps us to say no. So the humans were pissed about this because they had a good thing going here. They were mining whatever they were mining. A lot of people think it was gold. A lot of people think it was other things because the Sumerians were big into gold. So were the Egyptians. So, and remember, the Egyptian pharaohs all had that elongated head like the human aliens do. Everybody, today they say it was a disease, but we don't know. Because the description they give of the human aliens is a head like that, but it's designed that way. They have bigger brains than us, 1.5 sizes. I think they said 1.5 times the size of ours. The reptilians' brain is bigger this way. They're bigger this way, and the Greys are just big all the way around. Yeah, it's just crazy. The Greys' brain, which is probably 3 times the size of ours, is probably double what the reptilians and the humans are. Yeah, it was an eye-opening thing for me because when I got into this field, I was under the impression that the Greys worked for the reptilians and the humans, and that's how it was. Of course, the more research I learned, the more I found out I was wrong, and that the humans and the reptilians feared the Greys because they worked directly for the light beings, and the Greys were much more powerful than either race. Then people get confused because they see these little 3-foot Greys, and they think, oh, what could they do? Well, first off, they could whoop anybody's ass on this planet, but they're just the 3-foot guys. They're the runabouts. They do a lot of stuff. But the 5 and 6 foot guys are the ones that are usually working on you. The 7 foot and up usually are either royalty or some type of thing connected to the hierarchy. They're running everything under them, and they're serving the queen directly. Yeah, they say it's a hive system. What bothers me is it seems to be a height hive system. Like however tall you are seems to gauge where you are in the hierarchy. And the 3 footers, there is a 3 foot, what do you call them? Not an automaton, not an android, a cyborg, half gray, half machine. Yeah, those have been reported a few times. And they have some independency, but most of the time it's being run by a gray that's in there running the area. They also have access to how they can run it. And yes, there are always 3 grays present, whoever posted that. You might not always see them, but there's always 3 there. Yeah. They're always, other ones are always lurking around somewhere if you don't see them. Maybe it's the buddy system. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe there's strength in numbers. I'm sure there's lots of reasons why they're in 3s, but they are. Well, the 5 and 6 foot are different. They have different responsibilities. They seem to want to communicate with the contactees and abductees much more, whereas the 3 foot don't, and the 7 foot really don't either unless they have to. But the 5, 6 footers, they seem to be fine with dealing with humans, and it's just like it's their role to take care of whatever alien race they're dealing with. The ones lower seem to be doing a lot of the nasty experiments and retrievals and stuff, and the ones higher are involved sometimes in what goes on with the abductees, but most of the time they would rather be involved with whatever is running the empire, I guess you could say. I know, for maybe a lack of a better way of saying it. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So here we are. We're a young race. We've just overthrown the Sumerian Empire. We're spreading out over the Middle East. Part of us are becoming the Egyptians, Persians. We're just spreading out all over the place, all across the Middle East, and creating civilizations. Well, all right, Robert. To be honest with you, we don't know. Right? Considering most science considers Sumerian to be the oldest dynasty, but about a decade ago or a little bit longer, there was a thing found in Egypt. So they have a new dynasty. It's called the Zero Dynasty. So they've been working on proving it, because if it's what they think it is, then the Zero Dynasty is the first written language, not the Sumerian language. So I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it is called the Zero Dynasty, and it's supposed to become before the Sumerians. But either way it goes, both of them still are around 6,000 years ago. So they're trying to tell you that mankind is only 6,000 years. I'm like, damn, I don't know, people. It seems an awful short amount of time, if you ask me. I'm just saying, it just seems like a smaller. Don't whisper into the mic. Oh Lord, it just seems like a short amount of time. 6,000 years doesn't really seem to be a lot of time. And when I hear people say it's our only history, I have to laugh. Still a lot of my religious friends believe that only the last 6,000 years is when man was here. Well, we know that's not true. Man was here for at least 2 million. Now, in what shape and form or fashion you want to call it, man, anywhere from Neanderthal to Cro-Magnon to whatever you want to say. But, there were several different forms of man running around on the planet. That's why I've always wondered, which one did the aliens choose? Yes. Oh, is it man number 1? Is it Mon number 2? Is it Mon behind the box? Who could it be? Because, we don't know. None of us were there. But we do know this. They were brown-eyed, brown-skinned, and brown-haired. That was boring. Hey. Hey. I will send somebody to meet you at your home tonight, little shorty there. Do not make me send the aliens to your house. I'm just saying. It could be bad. Could be good, but it could be bad. Anyway. The Greys themselves seem to be much more powerful than either of the two races, and seem to have come on the scene much later than those two. And I really do think it's because of what happened between the reptilians and the humans that they even showed up here. I don't think they even cared what was going on until they found out, well, wait a minute. First, the Greys probably went, well, the council probably said, wait, you created a race. Did you bother even getting permission before you created this race? They're like, what? Because I can just see this council sitting there going, wait, did you did what? You created a race. And then I can see him pointing at the reptilians. Well, they're the ones that made it sentient, not us. And I can see the council going, really? So you felt the need to make the race they created sentient, really? So what are we supposed to do with this new sentient race that wouldn't exist without you two morons? So they were probably sent back to keep an eye on us, to help us mature. And the Greys were probably sent back to keep an eye on the damn reptilians and humans so they don't start a war. But somehow along the way, the Greys took over the majority of abductions, which is about 65% of all cases are Greys. The rest are usually reptilians or humans. And yes, Denise, reptilians do have sex with female women, or with human women. And the female reptilians do have sex with male humans. Yes, they do. I didn't believe it in the beginning. When I got into this 38 years ago, I didn't believe it at all. I was like, get out of here. Because I used to have all these women writing to me all the time, oh, this reptilian. I'm like, get the. And by the way, I apologized to them a decade and a half ago. But still, I was like, get out of here. Why would they want this little fragile, little, nothing of a person? I mean, a reptilian male, an alpha, is 500-600 pounds, 7-8 foot tall. His arms big around in my head. His arms big around in my thigh. Um, it just seems like it could be a bit much, but apparently it is a thing. And we came to find out because they're part of the same tribe. So the reptilians look at us differently than the other two races. They do abduct us, but since they only abduct in family lines, they consider the family lines that they originally interbred with to be their family. So they take it a little bit more serious. They consider it so, but by doing so, they also feel that they have the right to treat them the same way they would treat anybody else in their tribe or in their whatever you want to call it, because they're broke up into like a caste system of sorts. There's like, I guess a warrior class, religious caste, workers caste, just general caste. There's like 9 of them, I think, altogether. And so they feel like because you're in that family, you share that blood, and you share that genetic memory, that they can tell you whatever the hell or do whatever they feel like to do. Alpha males and alpha females have the right to have sex with anybody they want inside their tribe without asking or any other thing. And they're not supposed to resist or put up a fight. Unless there's some kind of problem. But they've also told that human women, if it scares them that bad, if they forcefully, not physically, because that's probably a turn on, if they forcefully in their brain get the message across that they're freaked out or scared or it hurts, they will probably stop. But they're not going to stop any other way because they just think it's their right. They don't even think they're doing you harm. Remember, they think you're part of their family. They just think this is what they can do. No, it's not incest like that, Christopher. No, because not everybody in those tribes are related. They're just part of it. And I imagine they breed across and well, it's a little bit different because think of it like this. We know there's winged reptilians. We know there's reptilians with gills. There's 4 or 5 or 6 different versions of reptilians that can do different things and live different places. So, well, like there's a whole group of reptilians that like the cold. Well, that ain't a reptilian, is it? Frankly, I don't think they've been reptilians in probably 500 million years. Somewhere they evolved into warm-blooded creatures. They move like we really and truly out of all the races that come here, man is more like the reptilians than any other race. We act like them. We have the same behaviors. We have a religion like they do. We think we're arrogant, egotistical, think we can do whatever we want, whenever we want to. That's them. Except for they're, 1,000 times smarter than we are. Well, I mean, for the most part, if you talk to a reptilian or anybody who's associated, for the most part, they will tell you 99% of all reptilians are agrarians. They believe in an agrarian society. They don't like weapons. They don't like war. They believe in colonization because they want to, procreate and spread their population, but they don't want to get into wars. But of course, if you back them in the corner, they have a warrior race. And from what I understand, they're pretty badass themselves. So, but for the most of them, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for peace, love, and happiness. Which is freaky because humans don't seem to be. Humans seem to be a little bit crankier and pissier. When you hear people talk about human alien contact, it's either fabulous and they love you, or they're just as mean, as cruel as the whole time they're abducting. And that's not how it is with any of the other races. For most abductions, it goes in phases from childhood to puberty to early 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It all seems to work and have a way of working. What was that? Oh, wait, we got 2 Denises tonight? Yeah, because that's definitely 2 different styles of writing. So we got Denise from DC. Hey, Denise from DC, and Denise from Portland. Hey, Denise from Portland. So Portland, you're the one that just asked me a few minutes ago. Okay, hey DC, what you got? Oh, you mean that you think presidents have been compromised and are aliens? Okay. Don't insult the aliens that way, please. Do you really think the moron that's in office right now is an alien? Do you think the moron that was in office was an alien, or the moron before that, or the moron before that? Don't insult the aliens. Just don't. They might come to your house and probe you. Yeah, they might come to your house and probe you without Vaseline. So just don't upset them. Just don't go there. I don't even think they care about our politics. For the most part, they probably think politics on this planet is a joke. And how, I listen to humans all the time. Well, we're so advanced. We're so this. We're so that. We're so woke. Really? Then why is there 209 countries on the planet? Right? A woke planet wouldn't have 209 countries. It'd have one. It'd be one world, Earth, Terra, whatever you want to call it. You can't, and even the name of a planet, okay, Earth or Terra, like is in Terra. Really? You couldn't come up with something better than that? Humans spreading terror across the universe? I'm just saying, people. We're our own worst enemies most of the time. And as a species, we need to get past that. I'm not saying you got to be peace, love, and light, because that's not what the universe is. The universe is not peace, love, and light. The universe is dangerous, vicious, cruel bitch, and you better be careful when you're out there playing with her. It's a beautiful place. It's a marvelous place. It's a great place, but the bitch will kill you in a heartbeat. Not even think about it. So as a species, we have to understand that. And we have to understand we're never going to achieve greatness as a divided world. And we're never going to achieve greatness under a communist regime. And even under democracy, I don't know if we're going to achieve greatness because democracy is so corrupt. I mean, if you look at our own government, you're like, really? Okay. If you look at, in all fairness, I did like what the guy said the other day. He said, I agree, democracy, this was a sci-fi movie I was watching. He said, I agree, democracy is corrupt and there is problems, but out of all the political things on the world right now, it is still by far the best. And he's right. It is still by far the best. It's the way we make sure that the little man don't get squashed and enslaved again. That's what democracy is about. Oh, and besides, America's not a democracy anyway. It's a representative republic, if I remember correctly. Yes, it's not a democracy. It's not. All right. I'll tell you what, how much money you got. I will bet you $5,000 that United States is not a democracy, that it's a republic. Just you put your money where your mouth is. Or get your ass on Google and look for yourself. Well, Marty, it works sometimes. Sometimes it don't. My good friend Marty, she's in the other chat room with us she's on Facebook. So it works sometimes. Slightly works sometimes. I mean, we're still the most powerful nation on the planet. And we probably always will be, because even though China is going to outpopulate us, 3-1 right now, 4-1, they still can't get their majority of people behind them. They got about 300 million Chinese that are, oh yeah, we're China, like America. But the rest of them are like, let me the hell out of this country. They're still starving to death over there. A lot of places don't even have running water. Communism doesn't work. It never has worked, and it's never going to work. Look at Venezuela. Look at Cuba. Look at China. China was booming, and only because the lower half of the government's not completely communist. But in the end, it's still going to kill itself because it's greedy. It's very greedy, yes. If China was a democracy, it would have already left the United States in the dust. Oh, yeah, it would have already left us in the dust. Mainly because us in the world would not care if we could trust them not to kill everybody and let their people be free and not be doing what they're doing right now. We'd get behind them and let them become a world power. But right now, it's making it hard for the world to trust them to let them become a world power. They think they're a world power, but they're not. They're not. The only country they could beat right now might be India, and I think India could give them a run for their money. The United States would whoop their ass like they ain't been whooped. They wouldn't even know what hit them. And I used to think, well, Russia and China together would be really dangerous. I don't know. Russia seems to have lost it. I think in a confrontation with us, they would. I don't think they would last as long as Iraq did. I don't. I think we'd wipe them out way faster. And they've got some serious equipment. The only thing that keeps Russia safe is the 4,581 nuclear missiles it has. Yeah. Jimmy, that's true. China is going to surpass us in shipbuilding amount of ships probably by 2035. But remember, the Soviet Union outnumbered us 4-1 on ships. Yeah, it's not the amount; it's the quality. And China ain't building no Zimwalt destroyer, or no rail guns or laser guns or any of that crap. I don't know if they even want to tangle with our submarines. Well, Mike, that's not exactly UFO related, but yes, it is true that Russia does have screw-driven submarines that are very silent. They sound like whales, actually. The U.S. says they can track them now because they've heard what each one sounds like, so they've put the sound out to all the ships so they know what they sound like. But there are several out there, and they are carrying nuclear payloads. Yes, they are. Well, you mean Putin using a nuke? What? You mean the aliens saving us from Putin? Nope. If Putin launches a nuke, the aliens are not going to intervene. Nope, they are not. I don't give a shit what you say. They're not going to intervene. All right, let me do this a different way. Show me one time in our past where they've intervened. Let me see. They didn't intervene at Chernobyl. Oh, shit. Chernobyl was, they didn't intervene at 3 Mile Island. They didn't intervene at Fukushima. Oh, my God. Wait. Did they intervene at Nagasaki? No, they did not. Hiroshima? No, they did not. That's 5 nuclear things where we blew the shit out of stuff, or I got the shit blown out of stuff, and they didn't interfere. Are they interfering in the Ukraine right now? No. They're not going to save us. If you believe they're going to save us, you've been fooled. They're not going to, or they would have already done it. Again, and this is, for my New Age friends, this is the most important thing you can understand about the extraterrestrials. They've been here a long time. So if they were here to enlighten us, we would be an enlightened species. It wouldn't have been that hard 10,000, 100,000 years ago to enlighten a species and bring this into a one government species. They could have united us in the Middle East and Europe and just let it go. But they didn't. That's not what they did, is it? But they also didn't wipe us out. They could have easily, in the Roman time or before the Romans, when we were just Neanderthals, they could have easily flew over and wiped everybody out and had a beautiful, pristine planet for themselves with no crap on it and nothing, the resources even been used. But they didn't do that either, did they? So they didn't kill us, they didn't eat us, and they're not telling us what to do. They're not enlightening us. And for anybody who says they're enlightening us, have you looked at the bleeping planet? They are not enlightening bleeping no one. Unless you think Joe Biden, Xi Jinping, and Putin are enlightened. Because if you do, you're living on the wrong freaking planet. Neo-Nazi bastard. Am I wrong? These are the 3 most powerful men in the world, ever. And would you tell me any of the 3 are enlightened? My point exactly. So between the 3 of them, they control almost 2 billion people, almost 10,000 nuclear weapons, and a fleet of ships and jets that nothing on this planet has ever seen before. But we're enlightened. Yay! We're enlightened. Yay! We're ignorant is what we are. We're just ignorant children that are running around blowing shit up. Our governments are like when you were kids blowing up the fireworks. Well, they just did it bigger now. Yeah, more expensive fireworks. Yeah, what was it? $1 million a missile? Yeah, way more expensive fireworks. Oh, that was when Trump sent. Yeah, well, that proved a point. He was having dinner with Xi Jinping, and he had a submarine pop up off the coast of, was it Libya, Syria, wherever it was, and shoot off 95 crews, unloaded the whole arsenal of this submarine, and just smiled like nothing was going on. That just scared everybody in the world. He didn't even blink. Yeah. Just shows you never know what we're doing. A couple of times we've done this. We have Reagan was the first one to do it. China was, I don't know what they were doing. And just not long before Clinton was taking over, he sent 4 nuclear submarines over there and had them all pop up around their country and say, excuse me. Reagan did the same thing. He did it with 3 of them. And just to prove a point, because, China was getting a little crazy about them islands. So we sent over 3 submarines, nuclear armed submarines, and just popped them up. Now, the reason it's so scary is because they didn't know they were there. They had no idea. 3 of those submarines were there for a day and a half before they were even seen, which means they could have flattened entire China with not even worried about it. But what's even crazier than that, China's running maneuvers down in the South China Sea, right? One of our frigates sailed into the middle of them. They didn't even know it was our ship. Right on the side of their carrier. They could have sunk the carrier right there. We're thinking, really, China, y'all are not what y'all say y'all are you? Well, live and learn. Does China have connections with aliens? I don't think most governments have connections. I don't think the aliens have time for our governments. Come here. Hold on. My little gray wants to come visit. Or in this case, my little black. Oh, look, she's wearing a matching shirt with her daddy. She said, yeah, she's an alien. Open your eyes so they know you're real. I am the gray. I've come for you, Earthlings. Don't pay attention to my pink outfit. I am coming for you. Yes, anyway, she's evil. Oh, wait, I hear somebody calling you for dinner. Going. Yep. So getting back to what we were talking about, I keep getting sidetracked tonight. I don't know what the hell that's about. But again, the Greys are the most powerful one that's coming here besides the light beings. And light beings really don't come to Earth. There's no need for it. People tell me all the time, oh, the light beings interact with me. Okay, first off, you dumb human. If a light beam was to fully interact with you, you would be dust. You would be toast. It would melt you. The amount of energy they give off is just not something a lonely human could take. And so, they get inside him. No, they didn't, because again, you would be toast. Now, maybe they can break up a little piece of themselves and leave it behind to monitor your ass or pay attention to you. But as far as getting inside of you like that, no, they would kill you. They're pure energy. And they're much older than any of the races that we've talked about. And nobody knows for sure, but a lot of the aliens and a lot of the contactees say they're not even from this galaxy. Originally, they were from a different galaxy. One of the dead ones we ate up a long time ago. Yeah, because nobody could figure out if they had the technology to galley hop. But if they were light beings, they probably could galaxy hop. But how long would that take? How fast could they do it as pure light? Pure energy, I should say. What was interesting about the Greys is for humans, we would consider them to be gods. They can appear as anybody they want to. They can look like anything they want. They can create and build things through thought. They can travel through time and space through thought. So yes, I mean, for what we consider to be a god, they would be a god. There's no other explanation for them. You can call them extraterrestrials, but I mean, they can create whole worlds through thought. That's pretty much as close to God as you can get without actually meeting God itself. I'm just, and how much more powerful is God than the light beings is always what I'm kind of interested about. I mean, if they can travel through space and time, create through thought, they pretty well up the God chain. They might not be the top one, but they got to be up there in the top 5 for sure. Well, they would be. Well, that's you good. They could be like Q, whoever posted that. Actually, from the way they described, I think they'd even be more powerful than Q. They sit on the head of the council. Yeah, that's true. I've heard that. And I've had many contactees told me they sit on the head of the council. What's interesting is over the years, sometimes I hear it's 9 seats. Sometimes it's 11 seats. Sometimes it's 13 feet. Sometimes it's 17 seats. Sometimes it's 19 seats. Anyway, there's a table on the floor. It's just a long rectangular table, and that's where the top, whatever races, the top 10, 15, 20 races, that's where they sit. And then the walls slope up like this. The best way to describe this is if you've ever seen the new Star Wars where Yoda's fighting the Emperor and the councils in the chamber, that's what it looks like. It goes up the walls, and each one has their own seats. As a matter of fact, whoever made this probably had read this in either one of our reports or somebody else's report, because that's how it's written, as this thing that slopes up the sides, and the seating areas, which were, well, they said they were squares, but in the movie or around, could actually move to the podium and speak, and then they would move back. And there was literally thousands. And at the very top, there was like a drip. It was clear that dripped, and it was a big area. It was full of liquid. Actually, each chamber was a different type of liquid. Some were just water, like salt water. Some were just water. But a lot of them were different types of liquid. These were, I guess, liquid breathing varieties of animals, or I should beings. Oh, my other baby came. So they were also, that's where they attended the council at. David, don't get eaten. But when it comes right down to it, That's what they describe the council as. Big, huge. And the city that it's in is huge. It's like the city itself is about the size of Earth. And it sits on a planet, which is a water planet. They said there's one island, the whole planet that's above sea level. But this thing isn't on the island. This is just a big, huge city that sits above the water and just hovers around the planet. It moves around the planet. For whatever reason, I don't even know why it moves. I don't know why it's not in one location. But it just moves around on the planet. It sounds like something out of what's that movie with the redhead in it? Fifth Element. Sounds like something like that, where it's moving around to see better sunsets and stuff. Whatever it is, it's huge. I mean, there are literally thousands of races there, and each race has its own little section. Maybe like a skyscraper and 2 buildings, but whatever it is, each one has its own little section, and there's just thousands of these sections. I can never get anyone to give me a number of races because they all say it's just too many to count. 10,000, 100,000, I don't know. It's a lot. But every race, and that's, by the way, this is not all the races in the galaxy by any means. Some of them are not part of the council and they're advanced, and some of them are just so low down the chain they're not like us. They can't be a member. So there's lots of worlds out there like us that are not members, that are just evolving. There are worlds that are more advanced than us that are also not members because they don't want to be members. And of course, there are worlds out there that are probably hostile to the damn thing. So there's a lot going on out there, but we're still stuck on our little planet learning how to be good little humans, intelligent little humans, humans that are not going to go out and nuke the damn galaxy, or for that matter, threaten to nuke the galaxy. I mean, here we have Putin sitting on the other side of the world saying, well, I'm going to nuke someone. Why? Because you're going to die in 6 months? Is that really the legacy you want to leave behind? Thanks, David. I mean, is that really the legacy you want to leave behind? So, and again, and the reason I brought that up is because the aliens aren't going to stop it. No, they're not going to go over to tell Putin. They're not even going to try to convince him not to. For some reason, they have no problem screwing around in like our genetics and help us to develop empathic and telepathic abilities, because when they interbred with us, we got those anyway. So they don't mind helping us develop. They don't mind getting contactees closer and getting them together. But for the other 6,500,000,000 people, they don't give a shit. They don't care. You're nothing to them. And I'm serious. You are nothing to them. It's the reason there's been no full disclosure, because as far as they're concerned, they've disclosed to everybody who needs to know. They've gave it to everybody. Don't get me started on that, David. They all contactees know, and the abductees don't need to know because they'll never remember they've been taken anyway. So they'll only be useful when they croak. Yeah. It's tough, guys. And they're not, I don't want to say they're our enemies, because they're not, but they're not our friends either. Remember, the human aliens made us slaves. The reptilians intervened and stole, raped our women, and still do that even today. And the Greys just do whatever the hell they want because nobody can stop them. Well, that's scary, David. They nobody can stop them. I don't know anybody in this planet. Brings me to a little story a friend of mine told me a long time ago. Her name was Trish. And she tells me one day, she's having alien contact. I'm like, okay, wow. And she said she met this group down in Roswell, New Mexico. And Guy Malone's a friend of mine. I know him pretty well. And Joe Jordan was, and it was the Alien Resistance Movement. And I was curious. Alien Resistance Movement. All right. Somebody's trying to kick some ass like Daryl Sims. I'm like, let's see what's going on. And so they think that all alien abductions are demonic possession, and that, of course, they can remove the possession from you and you'll be free. And they have done this for some people. And they said, so, Joe don't believe anything. Just said, well, Sheridan, Teresa, can I hypnotize you and see if it's really gone? And she looked at me like, what do you mean? Is it really gone? I said, well, aliens are pretty slick. If they still need you and they think you're stressed, and they may have gave you a cover memory. So I went in, and sure enough, there was a cover memory. And I interviewed about 7 other of these people who said they had been cured by this. Come to find out, none of them had been. Which then I kind of felt a little bad by reawakening in them, because it was cleared. The aliens were hiding from them. So I kind of felt like a dumbass for waking them up. But they needed to know anyway. So then they were all pissed. And then I used to get into it with these guys and say, come on, guys, it's not what's going on here. I can understand wanting to be religious, and I can understand that you have an issue whether God creates. See, humans have a problem because God created us, and they don't want to think that God created something before us or after us. I don't know. They don't want to think about that. So all I can tell you people is go listen to Monsignor Balducci. I met him in Washington, D.C. In 2009. I was speaking at the X conference, and Puyola Harris introduced me to him and translated the conversation that him and I had. Now, we had a serious hour and a half, 2 hour conversation. This wasn't a show. This was just him and I sitting at a table, waiting on dinner, talking about this with a crowd of people around us. So he said the Vatican not only knew that aliens were real and that aliens had been visiting this planet, but they also knew that aliens were on a higher evolution plane than we were, as far as Balducci, Father Monsignor Balducci. Like the one from from Saturday Night Live. It's kind of like that one. Yeah, it's real close. I might be saying it wrong, but it's real close. But anyway, him and I talked, and he that's when he alluded that the aliens are higher, closer to God than we are, is what he said. He said they're much higher on a much higher evolution, spiritual evolution than we are. All the aliens that are visiting, he said, and he said there was 5 races visiting. We say there's 6, so it's real close. But he said they were all of them on a higher spiritual evolution than man was, much higher. He talked about the Greys being on a plane far above any of the other races that are visiting. So, we say they're mean and cruel and they're doing this, but if they're closer to God than we are, then we're in a world of shit, aren't we? Really, because I don't think God's going to get upset if some of his children are screwing with some of his other children, especially if they're closer than he is. That would be like saying his lower angel would make him more happy than one of his archangels. And I don't think that's true. So I don't know how it is for us. And then, but he told me more than one time that the Vatican was fully functioning and there was quite a lot of evidence in the vaults. So he passed away, and a couple of years after that, I met the astronomer, the Vatican astronomer, and him and I got to talking. I had told him I had met the Monsignor, and I told him what he said. He said, "Oh yeah," he said, "That's what the Vatican believes." And he said, "I'll tell you for a fact that we all know." He said, "If you're from this rank up, all of them know that the aliens are real." He said, "There's no doubt that they're even taking some of our people, some of our higher up and lower up people." He said, and it's been going on for a long, long time. And he even alluded that it's possible that the popes may even be picked on that they've had contact. Because again, remember, they believe that these aliens have on a higher spiritual plane than we are. So you'd want to get close to them. See, no one's ever even talked about that or even wants to talk about it because it's just scary to think that one of our primary religions could be based on this. But, we say that, but here we have Scientology, who's out based on looking at aliens. We have the Mormons, who are also looking at aliens. There's other religions besides that on our planet. So it's not even that unheard of. It just seems like for some reason after the birth of Christ, we got anti-alien. Before that, we weren't. We weren't anti-anything before that. We were into all kind of stuff. But once Christ came, we changed. Whether it was, what do you mean? Was it for the better or the worse? I don't know. You'd have to judge that. I mean, it's hard to say. There's a lot of good stuff on Earth. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff. So it's hard to, it's like the scales. What's heavier right now, the good or the bad? I still think the good's high, as heavier than the bad. But there's just a lot of good people, and so the aliens are closer to God than we are. That's interesting in itself. It makes you look at the aliens differently than just these brutal things that are coming to our planet and doing these different things to us. If they are spiritual, which they seem to be, the 3 races that are visited are definitely spiritual. We've found that out. And now we have the Monsignor and the Vatican astronomer telling that as well. It seems like they are spiritual beings after all. But their spirituality does not get in the way of what they're doing. And they have no qualms of removing eyeballs or cutting out arms or taking out spinal cords or any of that stuff. That's just typical stuff for them. So I guess it doesn't offend their God. Or our God or whoever's God. I guess it depends on what you believe. Or maybe they have the blessing of the creator. Said, oh, you know what? I screwed that last group up. Let's kind of do some work with them. I mean, we don't know. Again, these are one of these things we just don't know. Christopher, yeah. Anyway, who's my favorite alien? I mean, alien race. Hello, Susan. How are you, baby? My favorite race is probably the Greys. Oh, probably the reptile. I don't know, somewhere in between. It's what's the matter, Mike? That turned you on? Shame on you, buddy. You're a sick sucker, baby. Oh man. Oh, I got some wild ones out tonight. So on a side note, because somebody had asked me about this about 2 weeks ago, so I'll go through this real fast. I know y'all have heard me talk about condom mutilations and how I think it's the government testing for radiation. I did mention a couple weeks ago that I did get confirmation on it. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was doing a lecture, and from time to time, when you do lectures, you know, you'll have like senators' aides, or sometimes you'll even see a House rep or somebody show up. It's really strange, like especially when you're in DC, they have a tendency to show up. You know, it's anyway. Long story short, there was a couple military people there, and there was Senator McConnell's one of his aides were there, and we got to talking after the lecture. He said, man, it's a really fascinating lecture, and blah, 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 blah. He said, you really think it's us? I said, well, it makes sense. Well, I don't know why the aliens would leave it behind. The insurance thing for the cows makes sense, that people get their money back, so they're not going to bitch about the cows. Because you got to wonder, all these cattle mutilations and nobody's bitching about them. I mean, it's supposed to be like 1,000, but no one's bitching. I mean, cows are $5,000 a piece, man. Yeah, somebody's going to be bitching. But no, they're insured, so they get their money back. So that just didn't sound like aliens to me. That just sounded like the government. But since then, I did have one aide, one senator's aide, and one colonel authenticated for me. So it's definitely what they're doing. Well, what happened was in the United States, west of the Mississippi River, we were testing nukes all over the place, underground, above ground, all over the place. Well, our government don't want to run around testing for radiation, because what happens if you see them out there in your field testing for radiation? You're going to want to sue because you're thinking you're being irradiated. And there may be radiation in these meats and stuff, but not to a point they consider to be, too harmful. So they don't want to say anything because they don't want to get sued. So this is an easy way for the government to check. And the other part about this is many people have reported seeing black helicopters doing cattle mutilations and sled marks on the ground, which suggests humans are not then. So what it looks like, there are five major things. They take the tongue, the uterus. They take a couple of things anyway, and all places where radiation would accumulate the fastest. So they're looking to see if these cows are carrying a heavy amount of radiation in case something needs to be done, like an area needs to be closed off or something needs to be done so there's not a bunch of health. It's an easy way of doing this. It gets blamed on the aliens, so they get to do what they want without having to worry about it. And as long as these ranchers are getting their cows paid for, what's the big deal? I talked to about 24 ranchers over this, and they all told me the same thing. Well, if it wouldn't have been, he said, I called the sheriff on the first two, and the sheriff said, well, unless you get something new, don't worry about it. He said 11 cows altogether taken and mutilated, put back. And he even had two of them were taken, had GPS tracking devices on them. They were taken up and taken over to not somewhere nearby and landed, and then worked on it and taken back and dropped off right where they were taken from. And he said, and he figured it was a helicopter, judging from the speed the thing was traveling, the GPS was traveling, which was about 177 miles an hour. He said he figured it was a helicopter of some kind. Doesn't sound like an alien craft. It would have just popped in, popped out, popped in, popped out. It just sounds like government to me, and it sounds like they're checking. And there's really no cattle mutilations east of the Mississippi River. There might be one or two, but there's not many. And all the ones in South America they were supposedly having, we found that they were all BS. There was no real ones down there. Most of them were insurance frauds. They were going around killing the cows and doing these weird things so they could collect the insurance, because there was a slump in the cattle at the time. It had dropped, the price had dropped by about $1,000 a cow. So they just mutilated them all and claimed on the insurance, because the insurance had to pay full price. Yeah, it was some army general down there. He just went crazy, killed like 200-something cows. And then some of them they couldn't find. They found out they had been stuffed in a A water tower. Yeah, it was crazy. Well, that's also where the human mutilations came from, which I haven't verified that any human mutilations from extraterrestrials ever, not least that they gave back to us. I would think anything that they mutilated, screwed up, would go to the cleanup crew and we would never see it again. See, that's the whole point about the cattle thing. We know there's a cleanup crew for the extraterrestrials that clean up their mistakes. So why would they leave the cows behind? And they like meat and stuff. They do all kind of shit with it. They suck the blood out and they turn the meat and they have big. Anyway, they're like the cleanup crew, not just for the Greys, but for a lot of different races. I guess the council figured out a way to reuse dead things. I don't even want to imagine. I don't even want to know. Some things, maybe Soylent Green. Some things I just don't want to know, people. Well, John, thank you. I'm glad I look pretty in pink. Not sure how to take a compliment from a guy like that, but okay. Pretty in pink. Yeah, that's, handsome, maybe. Pretty. He's an asshole. I'm sorry, people. That's just comments from everybody. I can't read it. Jesus. But getting back to the Greys, so the Greys really seem to want to be the policemen here. They want to keep an eye on both the reptilians and the humans. They just don't trust them to do what they're supposed to be. I think that's why they took over all the original abductions, and that's why they do the majority of them now, because it's just easier this way. Well, damn, Denise's are active tonight. Anyway, it's not like they're not going to interbreed with each other. So let's say that we got David and Marty. So let's say David and Marty have a kid. Now, David is a reptilian contactee and Marty is a Grey contactee. Okay, they have a kid. Now, this kid's mixed, right? Who's going to take this kid? Is it going to be the reptilians or the Greys? Well, Greys usually supersede, but maybe not. So, but anyway, this kid marries someone and has a baby, and that person is a human alien. Now they've got a three-way hybrid. Now that kid turns right around and goes back and marries a Grey and has a baby. This kid, there's no telling what these children are going to turn into. I think that's one of the reasons why they watch us so closely, because I think in the future they think that we're going to be a very powerful race. They screwed up giving us all three of their DNAs. It is screwed up. So now, along with whatever our original DNA is and the other three sources of Greys, reptilian, humans, we're going to become a super race, but not for a long time, people. 100 million to 1 billion years, I would think. But we're going to become like the light beings for sure, or something along those lines. And I think that's one of the reasons they're so adamant about keeping an eye on us. They're the ones that screwed up. We got their DNA now. Well, to answer Howard's question, which, man, I ain't seen someone named Howard in like a decade. No offense, dude. It just caught me off guard. I'm sorry. These races, they're playing the long game. They're not playing the short game. They're really looking at this, 1 million years, 5 million years, 10 million years. They're not really looking at it. That's why you have such a hard time understanding what they're doing, is because their goals are so long range. They want to see us become a psychic race. It may be a prerequisite to serve in a council. You probably have to be psychic. I imagine telepathy and empath is something that you have to serve, or to be a member of the council. The majority of the planet must have to have it. Well, a telepathic planet's going to be a more honest planet, isn't it? Yes. Because when you look at somebody, you instantly know what they're thinking. It's going to be a more honest planet. Oh, well, I didn't think you were hot. Well, that's not what you were thinking. Oh, I didn't think you were dog. Well, that's not what you were thinking. You just got to be honest. You walk up some ugly guy, and you're like, oh, God, yeah, you're ugly, dude. I'm sorry, I'm going the other way now. You got to be honest, because he can read your mind. He's been thinking, well, this bitch been thinking I'm ugly for the last mile. But it will change the way we interact with each other, and the way we do things, and the way we are with other countries. Because, I'm sure somewhere along the line we'll figure a way to keep lying and blocking it out. But in the beginning, it's going to be tough. These abilities are going to be growing, and we're going to be getting in other people's heads. It's a bitch. Being empathic sucks. It's a great thing in lots of ways, but it also sucks. If you're close to people, it doesn't even have to be a spouse. It could just be a friend or somebody you work with a lot. When you're empathic, you tend to get in people's heads a lot. And you'll be talking and you start answering people's questions without thinking about it. or asking questions that they're about to ask, or saying something that they're thinking about. Uh, Something simple too could be like, "I want to go get an ice cream." Oh, let's go get an ice cream. Oh, I was just thinking about that. And after you have been thinking about that 100,000 times, you're kind of like, "Well, there's something screwy here," because you're picking up on all of it. An empath's going to have a hard life because if you don't know you're an empath, let's say that you're a stage 5 empath, you're right in the middle somewhere. Pretty good empathic abilities, pick up a lot, send a lot. Let's say you go to Mardi Gras, okay, and you're standing in a crowd full of drunk, happy people, and all of a sudden you start feeling woozy and happy and crazy, and you can't feel out why. You're like, well, this isn't me normally. Why am I not? Why am I not feeling like this? Why am I feeling crazy like this? Or all of a sudden you start bawling and crying because you done picked up on something. Or you walk into a room and everybody in the room instantly starts acting like you. They're in whatever mood you're in. So empaths can set a mood or accept a mood. So you can walk into a room, and if a room's got a particular mood as an empath, you may pick it up and carry that mood. Even though you was in a good mood, you now might be sad. But also in the same breath, you can transmit that mood. So you can be mad, happy, pissed, or whatever. When you walk into a room, that room or wherever you're at, those people will instantly start feeling the way you do, even though nothing was said between anybody. It's a real bitch sometimes. Especially if you're not feeling good, or if you're cranky or you're mad, it can be a real bitch. Hello, Susan. How are you? I actually do know some really cute ones too. I do. I even know a couple got a little ching with them. Yes, I do. Reptilians are weird though. So I can say they're weird. I was actually talking to someone in the other chat room. Yeah. hmm Well, no, she asked me if I knew any single reptilians, and I do know a couple. Yeah. The young reptilians don't have tails, by the way. They're usually only around 6 foot, 180, 280 pounds. We're not even going to get into the other things. What's sad about this? I have information on sexual organs, what they look like, how they work. I mean, stuff that you were like, I mean, some of the information that people give me is unbelievable. It's not that it's probably not real. It's just great. So here's another one for you. So these men were talking about these female reptilians that used to come and take them and have sex with them, right? And I remember when the first guy told me this, he said, Joe, she sat on me and this like tube came down and went inside of me and went inside. And he said, next thing I knew, I was just, all over the place. And I was like, what? It just caught me off guard. Okay. And so then a couple other guys told me this. I'm like, what the hell? So, it's not stuff we make public. This is like only the third time I've even said this on the air. So most people don't even know what we're talking about. So when you have a man, especially a grown man, because men don't even like to admit they've been taken, by the way, it's hard for men to come up and say, hey, I was taken or probed or whatever. So for them to admit this is tough. For a woman to come in and rape them and do these things to them is just not, they don't know how to deal with it. So when I hear these, I'm like, wow. But women also tell me the same things. They tell me how it's shaped, what it looks like, how it acts. I'm like, really? I mean, this is far more information than I need to know. It's freaky, it's weird, and then these men and women develop relationships with these aliens. And what's weird is a reptilian can come in and make yourself look like anybody. He can't physically shapeshift, or she can't physically shapeshift, whichever way you want to go. But they can make everyone have the image. Is that what they look like? They can even make you think that their skin feels a certain way. But their skin feels like, to touch feels like a warm suede. Depending on the way you touch them, a cool to warm suede. But their body temperature when you touch them, it feels warm to you. So our body temperature is at 98 degrees. So they may be a little bit warmer than us, or right around the same temperature, maybe 100, because they're all warm to the touch, not cold to the touch. Would you sending me money? Well, thank you. The more the money, the merrier, man. Look, come on, girls, pick that stuff out. By the way, anybody wants to make a donation to the network, you can go over to uprntalkradio.com and click on the donate button and say thank you. And send a donation by. We're always looking for donation. By the way, what time? Yeah, we got a few minutes. So one of my friends who's in the room right now, we're all working on starting some conferences. We really want to get some local Southern stuff going on. Not to hate on my friends up north. It's just y'all have conferences. Out west, you have a buttload of conferences. But down here in the South, there just aren't, these religious people don't like us talking to aliens and ghosties and stuff that upsets them. So we've been looking around and we've got some ideas. And so reason I'm bringing this up. So if you're into paranormal or in ufology. So some people will be allowed to come speak. There won't be any pay involved this for y'all because you're probably newbies or you haven't got a big enough draw. But we will be offering slots for new people, or not even necessarily new people, just people who have been in the field. Now, that's not going to be all the slots, but we're going to offer some. As far as big names, we're having issues with that because who is a big name in ufology right now? So if you're listening to us, ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone that you want to hear? I mean, like Stephen Greer, Richard Dolan, Peter Robbins, Daryl Sims, Jim Sparks, uh, Melinda Leslie, Kim Carlsbad, Karina Sable, Marion Delicata, Nuriera Isley. I mean, I'm not just saying those. I'm just mentioning names, which I've interviewed all these people. But take a think of who you want to send it to. Send it to my Cox, but I put attention Joe conference because I get a lot of emails. So if you're interested in coming, that's fine. If you're interested, if you want to come listen to who's going to be talking, we're going to set it up. I've been talking with Marty. We're not sure. We're going to offer different things for different people. And the first one, we may not do the full dinner thing. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the attendance looks like. How's that? And we'll decide that. Well, the bigger the attendance, the cheaper it is for everybody. When you do, when you do dinner with the different speakers, where everybody gets their own table, those dinners aren't cheap. They're usually anywhere from $50 to $150 per head. So that'll be included in your ticket price or separate. If we do that, we'll definitely do a meet and greet on Friday because we want everybody to come out and meet the speakers. Who's going to be speaking, who's going to be around, stuff like that. So we want you to come around and meet the speakers. If you want to volunteer to help, you get to meet the crew, or you come out and volunteer and help with stuff, you can do that as well. If you know any good venues along the Gulf Coast or places like that, give us a call, let us know, or drop us a line. We're definitely looking to get this going. And I'd like to get the first small one done sometime in October or November. And then we're looking at doing something a little bit bigger. But I'm thinking the first one we might do in one of the colder months because it'd just be easier for people to travel. It'll be cheaper. It'll be less people on planes. Hotels will be cheaper, especially if we do it along the Gulf Coast. It'll be way cheaper. Right now, to stay at the Beau Rivage is $500 a night. Come January, it'll be about $60 a night, $80 a night. The Grand, I think the Grand in January, February is like $49 a night. Beautiful. They got the all sleep bed system. Oh, that is so nice, man. This bed, I don't know what they do to this bed. It's like a spell on this bed. The only bed I've ever had that was comparable is I was in Washington, D.C. filming for Ancient Aliens, and I got to stay at the Mandarin Hotel. I got the suite, the penthouse suite, the one that overlooked the White House. This thing, the bathroom in this suite is bigger than my house. I'm not kidding you. The bathroom was bigger. It had voice-activated blinds. It had a bathtub. It had a jacuzzi tub. It had a shower, and then it had another shower that had all kind of jets in it. And then it had a shower you could get like 20 people in with 40-something jets. And it was like a car wash for people. It was ridiculous. I'm thinking, what do you need all this for? I guess rich people just live really well is all I can say. But the bed, I mean, this bed just conformed around. I didn't even move. I slept the whole night and didn't even move. The pillows were great. The bed was great. Well, this hotel, the Grand Biloxi, has got the same system. It's really nice. We don't know yet. We're still talking. We talk all the time about it. And but we're always looking for ideas. We're always looking for people to get involved and help. There's a lot to go on. So we're looking for local people that we can get around and meet with. I might even start a meetup group just to see. We live Mississippi and Louisiana. So if you're in those two states, if you want to get involved. But I mean, if you're in Florida, Alabama, or Texas, Texas is a little bit further, but Alabama is only an hour and a half from New Orleans, from where I live, it's less than an hour. So, also my friends in Pensacola. Pensacola's only a 2-hour drive from here. So, we want to get this going, and we want to do it right, and we want to really offer something that the people here want. It doesn't have to be necessarily geared for like a big conference, East Coast or West Coast. Southerners are different, and Southerners are going to be looking for different things. And we want to really offer that, like Christopher, like you just said, Christian voodooism. That would be nice to have someone there that could speak about that. And I'm sure down here in Louisiana, you can find some people who want to speak about that. And that's for big speakers, little speakers, speakers in general. Just write to us and let us know who you think's a good speaker that lives somewhere in the South. You wanted somebody within, say 3 to 8 hours of where we are in the South. And we just want to see if we can get it going. You mean Beauvoir? I thought about doing it at Beauvoir, But the problem with Buva is Buva may be offend some people. I mean, after all, was the what was it? It was a confederacy, but it was a capital of the confederacy. So I don't know. Some of my black friends might actually get offended. Some of our black speakers might get offended. They may not, but I don't feel a need to put them in that situation. So more than likely, it won't be there. Now we might do a ghost hunt there. That could be interesting. Because it is a haunted, this shit, there's a graveyard on the side of it. I lost count how many graves are out there. So, for a ghost hunt, it might be interesting. And there are other places in both Louisiana and Mississippi that would make great ghost hunt. But also, there is the Honey Island Swamp where we can do sky tours. And not just sky tours. We can go out and do a sky tour and a ghost hunt in the same location. And we can also be on NASA base while we're doing it. So we can be in the NASA territory in a 300-year-old cemetery with an open sky that you haven't seen unless you live in the desert. I know. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Be interesting, a little scary at the same time. Oh, no, I'm serious. So that's stuff we can offer. So there's a lot they have to offer down here. I just couldn't figure out. And, I've been talking with this, and I can't understand why there just isn't any of these conferences down here. And I don't want to talk about it too much because I want somebody to get out there and beat us to it. But there just seems to be a need. I mean, New Orleans definitely needs it. Should definitely, if nothing else, be hosting a paranormal conference at least twice a year. I mean, have you ever seen New Orleans? New Orleans is haunted as all hell. What do you mean, ghosties going to New Orleans? You mean, you know what? In the French Quarter, I have not heard that much about aliens in the French Quarter. In the Vieux-Carré, not so much. I have heard people talking about like weird hockey puck looking things hovering over Bourbon Street and Royal and stuff like that. But I really haven't heard of anyone seriously talking about aliens too much. I have heard about the Greys down there once or twice, now let me rephrase that. Now there is the reptilians after Katrina. So I'm going to tell the story even though we're out of time, and y'all can tell me what you think. So originally, this story came in 6 weeks after Katrina. NOPD, which is a New Orleans police officer, contacted me, and it said that he was out on patrol with his partner when they ran up. They parked their car at the end of the French Quarter on Esplanade Avenue. Now, Esplanade was still flooded. There was still a couple of feet of water on Esplanade. So they got out the car and they were walking around, and they seen what looked to be a guy about a quarter mile in the water walking about waist deep in water. So they're hollering at the guy because nobody's supposed to be out there. So they start walking towards it. It starts walking to them. The cop says as he got closer, he realized that this looked like a giant lizard. So he reached for his gun, to tell it to stop. He said, I really think I was going to shoot it. And he said, the next thing I know, I was walking back to my car and getting into the car. And my partner looked at me and I looked at my partner. He's like, and we just didn't say anything. He said for 3 weeks. And he said, we had heard somebody else thought they had seen something along the lines that I got us to talking. He said, somebody told me that there's a resident alien guy in New Orleans. So I looked you up. He said, you were in the Times-Picayune, by the way. I said, yeah, I know. I said, they did a story on me. And so I was like, well, this is interesting. 2 days later, I get 2 National Guard guys write to me, 2 separate National Guard guys, 2 different groups. One had 3, one had 2, that wrote to me and said they were approached by a reptilian on West Esplanade in about waist deep water. He said, I drew my M16, and he said, the next thing I knew, I was walking back towards the truck. Now, both of them. So all together now, we have 4 different groups of NOPDs and 5 different groups of National Guard. Now, all these National Guard guys, by the way, were from Desert Storm. These were people who had just come back from Iraq that were working here, that had volunteered to come down here and work. So these were not like, some just rookie National Guards that never seen it. These are guys who'd been in the shit. So things just didn't scare them. And they all said the same thing. They were petrified. They had never seen anything like this before and had no way to really understand what it is that they had seen. Other than that, and I said, well, what do you remember? And I asked a couple of them if they wanted to be hypnotized. And one guy finally, one National Guard guy said, yeah, one Army guy said, I'll let you hypnotize me. And there was a whole load of stuff in there. So when I talked to the NOPDs, I told them what we had found out. 2 NOPD guys decided to do it as well. There was a load of stuff in there. So basically, they walked up to these things, probably were taken for some time, and then put back in the water and let them walk back. Gave them the thought in their head to walk back to their vehicle. Now remember, everybody we're talking about here was carrying a gun, a loaded gun, not unloaded, not chambered, loaded. M16s, 9mm, 380s, the whole 9 yards. But no one managed to get a shot off. Here's a reptilian. We're talking about an alpha male, 7 to 9 foot tall, 300 to 600 pounds. This is a big thing walking at you at dusk. I can't believe no one got a shot off. No one. But you have all these people now who have given sworn testimony. I mean, they've even signed affidavits to the fact that this is what happened. That was freaky weird. And it was during Katrina. And it was after Katrina. It was weird too because, the police talked about this. So somebody was going around and finding bodies and tying them strings around their legs and tying them to stop signs. Now, some of them were the National Guard, some of them were citizens. But there was a couple of times people said they had seen this big silhouette of somebody, probably, 8 or 9 foot tall, big, had a tail swishing like an alligator tail swishing in the water. And were dragging humans. Like at first I thought this thing was trying to eat him. And then I realized he was tying them to stop signs. So whatever this was going around finding dead humans from the storm and tying them to stop signs. By the way, I've seen that a couple of times. That is a gruesome sight, by the way. One of them, we ran up onto the boat. There was 6 of them tied there, just floating in the water, dead as a doornail. Let me tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if it's a sight you don't ever have to see, I hope you never have to see it. It's one of them images you're not going to ever get out of your head. It's just no way to do it. But what can you do? I know we got to get out of here, so I'll get one more question in before we get, because I know the girls are on right now on the outer room, Miss Michelle DeRochier and Miss Amelia Passano. Do not piss them girls off because they'll be on my ass. No, I'm just kidding. So one last question. Anybody? I see a bunch of junkie going by. What? Oh, okay. No. That's fine. I just, when I first read it, never mind. But we'll just move on from that. But so again, the reason I think they originally came here was just by accident. The humans came by, seen this planet all lush and nobody living on it, came in and created a race. The reptilians interbred with that race, created a sentient race. That race came forward. The Greys got involved. And today, this is the race we have today. I know we didn't even talk about the blood type, which I see a couple of questions about, but it's too involved to get into right now. But I'll tell you this much about the blood type. If you are Rh negative, you stand a much better chance of being a contactee than if you are Rh positive, but for 2 reasons. One, they abduct far more Rh negative people. 2, there's far more Rh positive people than there are Rh negative, so the count would be spread wider amongst those individuals. Yeah, well, you mean today? I hate putting these numbers on things, but so currently, if I remember the numbers from the ICAR and from the site, we are currently 66% of all the abduction cases, which is around 80,000, around close to 90,000 now, are Rh negative. Not O negative, but Rh negative. Out of that, half of those are O negative. Half of the Rh negatives are O negative. You don't like it? Oh, come on now. You know this damn thing is hot, girl. What are you talking about? Wow. I'm just teasing. I was going to do red, but I wanted to use this new tie tonight, so I had to use pink. You don't like this pink. Well, some people don't like pink, but I'm a big guy, so I can get away with it. No, Thelma. What do you mean? No. No, what are you talking about? No, I'm a manly man, girl. Sorry. It's not like that. No. I'm not one of them woke guys, and I'm not one of no. Don't let the pink shirt fool you, baby. That's all I can tell you. If you don't believe, go look at last night. Show you see what I was wearing last night. Actually, I usually like to wear my Dion shirts because they're prettier. They have a little shine to them, but I got a bunch of what I call spring shirts. This pink one, light blue, turquoise, purple. So I'll wear those from time to time too. You don't even want to know how many shirts I got. You'd think I was a girl when I told you how many shirts I got. Renard, screw you. That's all I can tell you. I got a lot of shirts. I got a lot of ties. I got a couple of nice suits. Altogether, I got 12 suits. And I do construction for a living. Figure that one out. Mm-hmm. Actually, I was going to wear a vest with this one tonight, but I decided not to. Just one of them things. Uh, Thank you. I'm glad somebody thinks it looks good. Nah. Anyway, Billy, last question. Is Bigfoot an alien? Jesus Christ. I should have known you were going to say that. Uh, I don't think Bigfoot itself is an alien. Maybe it's dimensional bleed through. And what I mean by that is maybe when the aliens craft are popping in and out, it leaves portals that allows Bigfoot to go in and out. Well, I don't, well, I've never seen one. And obviously they don't want to get around me because I'm allowed to shoot the bastard. Well, I'm not exactly, as Michelle would say, I would shoot it, skin it, and eat it. Them Canadians think I'll eat anything. Yeah, they mostly right. I'm a coon ass. What can I say? Half me's a coon ass, half me's a redneck. We eat everything. We can't help it. It's part of being living in the South. Don't start. Oh, you can see that? Yeah, right here. It's Crown Royal. So before we go, that Crown Royal is from Writers of the Future, not last year, but the year before. It's been sitting there for 2 years untouched. This is how much I drank at the party that night. That much. That's it. And ever since then, it has been sitting right in front of my collection of great philosophers. That's some of the greatest. The Iliad and the Odyssey's up there. Almost all the great philosophers. So it's great reading stuff, guys. Yeah, if you want to look at it. All right, Christopher. Jesus, I gotta go, people. It's. I know Michelle's probably crying because I got her in the main service. She's losing listeners. I don't think they hate us. Okay, real quick. So you have all three of these races. Again, they could have wiped us out anyway. Any time along the line, they could have wiped us out. We could all be dead. I mean, let's be honest. 1,000,000 years ago, who was here? 100,000 people, maybe, if that many, and they were doofus asses to start off with. So, and even today, if they really wanted to put a disease out and wipe a whole bunch of us out, some kind of silicon-based disease that we can't cure, wipe out the whole planet, except for the contactees, make them naturally immune. Matter of fact, that's what the Holocaust dreams are about. But they haven't done any of that. And they also haven't enlightened us. Why can't they just beam every leader of the world up to the ship one day and say, look, you blank, 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 blank morons. This is how you should act. And if you don't start acting like this, every time you get elected and you don't, we're going to zap you, turn you to dust. And eventually our leaders will start acting right. Oh, well, wait, Mr. Gray, I didn't mean, no, and eventually we'll start behaving ourselves. But they don't do that. They don't give us advanced information. They don't tell us what the cosmos is. They don't even tell us what we can expect for our own souls. It's not their job. They want us to evolve naturally, but they want to keep an eye on everybody the original families that were originally abducted, because those are the ones with the abilities. So they want to keep an eye on those people with those abilities. Each generation's empathic and telepathics get better. And they're interested in where this is going. But that's not the whole planet. And again, people, not everyone on the planet can be telepathic. I don't like breaking your little hearts. I really don't. But if you like, I can prove this to you. So for anybody out there that thinks that everyone has psychic or latent abilities, this is an easy test. 2 cards. 2 colored cards or a king and a queen. It doesn't even matter. Just 2 cards, as long as they're different. Go to any mall in the United States, put a sign up. Would you like to be tested for telepathic abilities? You will be surprised how many people will come sit in that chair for you. If you do it in a mall, you'll probably get 100 the first day. You sit them down and say, okay, these are the 2 cards, king and queen. Okay. Or you just put the cards down and say, what are these cards? These are playing cards. Look into my head and tell me what you see. Tick tock, tick, like the Jeopardy music, going on. They can't guess it. I like to use like red and blue or yellow and blue, 2 colors. And I like to put them down because I don't want to put it in a situation that's 50-50 where they can just guess. I want them to figure it out. So I'll just say, okay, these are 2 colored cards and I'll slide them up there. Which color is this side? Which color is that side? That side's red. That side's yellow. You flip them over. Oh, shit. Can you do it again? They do it again. They do it again. They do it again. Because you can keep switching colors because you got a deck of cards. And then you know you got somebody. But the majority of people don't even get 50-50. It's like flipping a coin. Have someone flip a coin 100 times and see if you're even 50-50. Most of the times you won't even get it right 35-65. It's weird. But the majority of people have no psychic ability whatsoever. And you can tell because gifted parents, people empaths, will always know when there's something going on with their child. if there's something scary going on, or not just children, it could be sisters, brothers, cousins, you'll get this sense. It's like being twins almost. You're connected in a different kind of way. But parents that are not empaths do not get that same sense. They don't. It's just a different kind of thing. It's a very different kind of thing, actually. Well, you know what? Next week we'll do. I don't know if we got a guest next week or not because Carmen's doing all the guests, and I just talked to him about it tonight. But if we don't, next week we'll get into some of our abilities, how they work, what should we expect. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the planet as far as our abilities go and things like that. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the conference. You'll start hearing me talk about this more and more every week until we get to the point where we're announcing, for whatever. But I got to go, guys. I want to thank everyone. Marty, nice to see you. Susan, nice to see you. David, nice to see you. Chris, nice to see you. Denise, nice to see you. Helen, nice to see everybody who showed up tonight. It's always good to see questions in both rooms. It's always an appreciated thing. For all the loves and hugs and all, thank you for all of that, guys and girls. I got to go. Be sure you go run over and catch The Outer Realm with the lovely Michelle DeRoche and the fabuloso Emilia Pisano, and give them a hug, give them some love. Good night, everyone, and stay tuned. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. That's what old age does to you. But guys and girls, again, thanks for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week.
Show yourself. Oh, please show yourself. You come to me in the night. You take me for the starry ride. You study me, you dissect me. You never show me the truth to me. Are you little men from the stars? Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Visit me, then corner me, and you'll touch me, and then you cage me. You leave me with these magical stars, you little men from the stars. Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you. Show yourself. Oh, please show yourself. Is my life, my whole life, or is it you an experiment made for your amusement? Oh, tell me, are my thoughts my own, or a sea placed by you? Why won't you show yourself to me? Let me keep my memories of you.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.